Hello and welcome to Evolve Pipedrive podcast, where we talk all things Pipedrive, sales, apps, and the Pipedrive marketplace. My name is Bruce Bignell. I'm the sales director here at Evolve, and today it's my great pleasure to be joined by Chris Brisson, the CEO and co-founder of Salesmsg, a simple and scalable two-way business texting and calling platform that integrates super well with Pipedrive. Now, I'm really excited to be talking with Chris today for a number of reasons. One, his experience as a serial business founder and entrepreneur, having started his first internet business in 2002. That was later out his dorm room, I think it was, and then later acquired in 2005. Two, for his long-standing industry knowledge of all things marketing SMS, having started his first SMS platform in SMS marketing platform in 2011 before co-founding Salesmsg, which should mean that we should get some real insight and experience for anyone that's considering a sales message or calling platform in Pipedrive. And thirdly, Salesmsg is currently on. You can find it now on the Pipedrive marketplace. So we'll make sure we'll have links in the description below for you to give that a try out. So Chris, welcome. Please can you introduce yourself and Salesmsg to our audience?
Yeah, my pleasure. So I'm Chris Brisson, live in Florida, South Florida. And I've been just an entrepreneur my whole life. I accidentally, like you mentioned, accidentally started my first company in 2002. Sold wheels and tires on eBay, of all places, and sold it in 2005. And I vowed never again to ever sell physical things. And so I just went deep, tried to discover everything I could about sales and marketing, and learned, internet marketing strategies, and created ebooks and courses and all of it. And I loved it. And then I stumbled across software, and I fell in love. And so we actually started Call Loop in 2009. But prior to that, I started all sorts of different businesses. Prior to launch consulting, I worked with different clients. I help them launch their business from like zero to a couple $100,000 in a week, and so I really loved marketing. And then 2009, had the idea for Call Loop, which originally was a very simple idea, was autoresponders for voice broadcasts. And so it's evolved since then, but we launched it in 2011 out of beta. So that's been pretty cool. That company still exists today. Salesmsg, we started a little over 3.5 years ago. Team of 27, growing very quickly. We just won the Inc. 5000 for 27th fastest growing company.
I saw. Was it 458% growth? Was there was some incredible 400+% growth number that I saw?
Yeah, I think it was like 445. But funny enough, if we filled it out the year before, we would have won first. So anyhow, yeah, it's a nice accolade. I think it's really cool for us as a team and everything. So it's been a fun journey. Which the platform is it's a conversational and SMS marketing platform for sales teams, marketing teams, and customer support teams. So we do really well on the conversational side of things. We integrate with Pipedrive, HubSpot, a whole number of different CRMs, which is where people want to live, right? So
that's brilliant. I mean, did I correct? You broke up a little bit there, but if you would have filled out that form last year, you would have got number one in the region. Was that right?
Yeah. We should have done. I was doing the math. Like, wow, we probably would have won. We probably would have got first place. So over time it gets harder to get those numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
But hey,
no, I love
we
that.
We do that. Yeah.
So I think I said to you before, a number of our users are already on Pipedrive, or they're considering the switch. So I think having you on, obviously with your experience of starting multiple companies, but also with Salesmsg as a platform that integrates very well with Pipedrive, I think there's going to be a really good fit here.
Yeah.
So around Salesmsg, obviously you said how long you've been operating, but what does a typical Salesmsg customer look like? Like, you mentioned sales and marketing. Are there any specific industries or company size that kind of gravitate towards Salesmsg?
Yeah, I mean, we're not a platform for like individual. If that's that, then you're better off using your phone. So the companies we work best with have a team, right? And so they need
Yeah.
a simple and like a scalable way to allow their team to add messaging to communication. And so we work with marketplaces, we work with um, recruiting companies. We work with mom and pop companies as well, but we tend to work with companies that I would say are modern businesses, meaning they're using some sort of CRM to sort of manage their entire operation. Whether it's the sales team, like Pipedrive's on the sales side. Whether it's HubSpot, where you can have your sales, your marketing, your customer support all in one. And so again, we work with best with companies that are using different tools out there. And so, everything from the conversational two-way engagement, whether it's, lead engagement. So if somebody fills out a web form or they text your phone number, as a way to manage those conversations to push to, to qualify them, right? I think a lot of people, SMS has become such an easy way to qualify leads. So, we have a lot of customers that the older way or another method of qualifying a lead is doing an SDR, doing a phone call. No one picks up their phone, right? Like that sort of method isn't as successful because just people don't pick up their phone today. And so SMS has become a quicker, faster, more convenient way for not only the business, but also the consumer, right? To engage with a brand, engage with a company. And so the company can qualify and then push them to a phone call. Like, hey, are you available for a call right now? Yes. Or, hey, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions to see if Salesmsg is a fit? And so like we've seen companies transform their business going away from, a outbound sort of phone call, which, didn't really get a great contact rate, to SMS, to getting a very high response rate in being able to, qualify those leads quick and push to a demo. And so that's just one example. But also on the other side too is being able to send a text message broadcast, right? Using SMS as a revenue channel, whether it's for e-commerce companies or, again, maybe you want to send out a drip sequence of text messages to engage with cold prospects or with contacts that are in your pipeline. And so SMS has just become, I would call it like the missing piece, right? You've got calling, you've got email, and then you got SMS. And so that is sort of like the final frontier for a business, and they have to do it because more and more consumers are using their phone to do everything, right? And especially SMS is not tied to like Facebook. So
and to your point, it kind of pattern interrupts, right? So you might try the emails, you've tried the phone calls, but if it's another tool in your armory to kind of give them that nudge to either commit to the sale or the meeting or the demo. You said something there about a number of people come to you. I'm trying to think of the exact word that you use, but the not the future businesses, but businesses that have kind of embraced technology already, right? So would you say that, because as people obviously that listen to this are either on Pipedrive or they're considering Pipedrive, so a lot of people that are choosing a CRM are coming from like a spreadsheet, like they're not digitized a business. So would you say using a system like Salesmsg is like a phase 2 of that? You'll get more out of using a system like Salesmsg if you've got the rest of your business kind of like the process like aligned. You've got a system that trust, whether it's Pipedrive or something else, right? And then Salesmsg comes in once your workflow versus I don't know. Do you have people that just use Salesmsg? Where does that?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do. I think overall it's like, what's your stack, right?
Yeah,
So you've got, especially if you're sort of, again, considered a modern day sort of business, you've got a CRM, you've got a calling platform, right? You've got, your email platform. And so, it's all these best of breed tools that people really want to connect together. And so, if you're a growing organization, um, you need like best of breed. And so like we're best of breed on the SMS side, right?
Mm.
And so while AirCall is a great, amazing best of breed calling platform that integrates into Pipedrive, they're best of breed, right? We integrate into Pipedrive too, and we also integrate into AirCall. And so
Mm.
it's this integration ecosystem to where everybody can play well together, because at the end of the day, that's what the customer wants, right? They want simplicity, they want less apps, and they
Yeah.
want to make it work well together. And so, I think, someone starting out on Pipedrive, right? Getting set up with those systems, this and that. What you're going to find is you're going to have gaps in it. And
Yeah.
so we like to call, a framework, it's called textize your business. And what
Mm.
that means is, across that whole customer journey, you have lead generation, nurturing, right? Maybe a meeting or appointment, close the sale, follow up, upsells, and then like getting referrals. And so
Mhm.
in each step, SMS plays a part. So, for example, like lead generation. Cool. How can I use SMS as a way to capture leads? Well, I can have people text me. I can, Joe DeSano, we have, a bunch of guys on Instagram, like swipe up,
He's a
send me a
Spartan guy,
text.
isn't he?
What's that?
Is he the Joe DeSena? Is that I
Yeah,
might have got that.
Spartan.
Yeah, I've just finished his book, Resilient
Oh yeah,
Family.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've got that right here.
Yeah.
So like that's a strategy, right? You can use Instagram, have people text you. You can use it from, your Instagram profile. You can have people text in a keyword. So text, Joe to 55222, whatever it is.
Mm.
So that's a way to capture leads, right? And sort of build that list. And then you can have conversations with those people. And so every part of the life cycle, SMS can play a part. So if you're doing a demo or a webinar, or for this meeting, right? Like if I got a text, I probably would have seen it and like, oh my gosh, that's right. So,
Yeah.
SMS can instantly boost attendance. And so we've done, I've been doing it for a long time. So we've typically seen between a 25 to 45% increase in attendance, right? Just through a text message. And so
Yeah.
whether that's a webinar, whether that's a demo, whether that's a meeting, right? Like that's a problem, right? Because people don't show up. And so how are you using SMS as a way to, one, like engage with somebody that just maybe booked a meeting,
Yeah.
but then also to drive them to actually show up? Because if they don't show
Well,
up,
I was
then
just about to say the difference between booked and showed up, right?
yeah,
When have you found when's the best time to text? Is it straight after they've committed to book? So we get off this call. Let's book in schedule a call for next week. Do you text them straight after that? Thanks for booking the time in my call.
yeah,
And or do you have a better response if you text them 5 minutes beforehand? Because I was talking with uh, Casey Hill over at Bonjoro, and he was saying about using video to pass and interrupt straight after,
right,
as soon as they booked the meeting, say thanks, essentially. So
yeah,
then it
yeah,
gives more value to it. Whereas
yeah.
actually a text message straight after and before, kind of bookending that kind of journey before that meeting. I don't know if you had any kind of research around what is more effective there.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. So,
Cool.
one of our customers, he was selling, $10,000, $15,000 sort of, consulting for coaches. And
Hmm.
what he was doing was people were booking on his calendar that were just unqualified. And so he found all of his time having a call for 30 minutes or whatever it is, come to find out they weren't qualified to begin with. And
Yeah.
so what he did was, if someone was interested in a call, he would trigger out a text message. They would fill out a form. He would trigger out a text message, which would engage in a conversation. And it just opened it up, say, hey, thanks for filling it out. In order to sort of make sure that this is a fit for you and for I, do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Mm.
Cool. Yep. Ask me some questions. And he's like, awesome. Hey, did you check out this? Right? Did you attend the webinar or did you attend this? Right? And so through just a series of text message conversation, he's able to determine, do they have money? Right?
Yeah.
Is this something they're looking to do now? And have they seen any of my content? And he had some other things in there, but for any business, right? Like what's the qualifications
Yeah.
in order for you to book a call? And so he went from sort of filling his calendar with all these people that were unqualified to only filling his calendar with the qualified people. And so like his close rate went by like 50%. And
Yeah.
so he just went from qualifying on the front. Now, after they're booking the demo, right, it's one thing to get them to book it. So I call it like you have your sign up, your show up, and then your pay up, right? And so like in each one of those phases, SMS can play a part. And so like a really good text to send, it's so silly and stupid, but it works really well, is like if I said to you, hey man, let's go and grab lunch. Typically in the morning, I'm going to text you and like, hey, Bruce, are we still on for noon? And you're like, oh, yeah. Or, hey, I got to change my plans. And that's it. And it's just like, you can automate that text. And so the day of, or an hour before, or 3 hours before the meeting, you just send the text, hey, first name, it's Chris at Salesmsg. Are we still on for our 12 p.m. demo? Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey, are we still on? Like, just talk normal and you'll get a response, right?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I need to cancel it, or hey, I'll be there, or whatever it is. And so that's just a really great way to, one, like re-engage with them, and then just confirm. And so if they confirm, there's a whole psychology thing around commitment and consistency. So if they're saying yes to it, they're going to show up.
Yeah.
And so even like post thing, I think, with Casey's response, like after somebody books a demo, like that's a hot time, right? Like you really want to engage with them right away because maybe that demo's in a week. That's too far off. And so how do you engage with them immediately after that moment, which is a very impactful moment, right? It's like the thing that they're booking right now. How do you engage with them right away? And you can send them an email, but they may not respond to it. My email's flooded. Yours is too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're going on honeymoon soon. I've been missing some of the flight updates because we've had some flight cancellations, obviously COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it because you get so many marketing bumps, and so my wife now sends them to me. Did you not see that email? I'm like, no, because I don't check them until
Yeah.
I'm looking for something. Right, I then just search for the email that I need to find.
Yeah.
The only inbox I really live in is my work inbox as opposed to my personal one. Anyway, that's aside.
Sure.
So, but thank you for that story. It really shows the the impact that it can have, right? So, and the simple, what you might think is simple, I've got a whole series on sales qualification, so that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just another really good use case there. Obviously, you've been in SMS for a while now, right? So, how has it changed over the last decade, and how has there been any trends that you thought or you saw coming that have kind of really been exacerbated or sped up by over the last 2 years or because of COVID?
Yeah. I mean, if you said SMS in 2010, people thought you were spamming. And
Yeah.
it's funny, actually, I did a pitch event in Miami, and two of the judges, one of the guy was Craig Walker, who sold Dialpad to become Google Voice.
Hmm.
And then, now he's the founder of Dialpad, right? And so, great name. And then the other guy was Jamie Siminoff, which he then sold Ring to Amazon for $1 billion. And at the time, he was running a company called unsubscribe.com. So here I am. I'm like, hey, we're going to talk about text messaging. And so like, they were like, oh, well, isn't that just spam? And so like, that was the sentiment around SMS early on, was like, you're just sending SMS spam. Well, it wasn't. I mean, it was all opted in, right? It was like, companies sending text messages and everything. And so, over time, it has just become the way we roll. Like, again, no one picks up their phone, right? Like, even if my mom calls me, I'm like, Mom, can you text me? Right? I'm busy. I
Why does
don't.
Mum always call you just after lunch, and you got another meeting? Like, Mum, I've got work.
Right. And I think that's just people in general. It's actually funny. My flight got canceled in Atlanta. And so it got canceled for 2 days. I'm like, I got to get out of here. So my wife's like, why don't you just rent a car and drive? So it turns out it's about 10-hour drive. And so I rented a car. And so I posted on Facebook. I said, hey, look, I'm going to be driving for 10 hours. Call me. And the cool thing about that is it opened up an opportunity for people, like it gave them permission to call me, because on the other side is like, hey, I don't know if you're busy or you're not busy. And so like calling has just become sort of a no-no. Like
Mm.
people are busy, don't call them out of the blue. It's just sort of weird. And so like, SMS has sort of become like the passive way to talk to friends, to engage with people. And so anyhow, it was interesting because like I gave permission for people to call me, and it was amazing. I had a great call with like people I haven't talked to in a decade. It was just so much fun. And
Yeah.
so anyhow, I encouraged like all of our team. I'm like, guys, you got to try this. It's really cool. You get to talk to people you haven't talked to in a while. So yeah, so like SMS is just came from that, and then now it's become uh, more mature, right? Like there's a lot of SMS platforms out there that are just, hey, we just do text to join keywords, and we just do SMS marketing, like sending mass text messages. And that's okay. But there's a whole world that people want a tool where they can have conversations, they can send broadcasts, they can, capture leads, they can have their support team manage it. And so, the needs for companies that, go from like simplifying to, or sorry, from like complicated to simplify. And it's like, look, I need less things. I need them to work well. And I want to get away from like the world of complexity and get to simplicity. And so, people are creating all these funnels and this and that. When they happens, they tag them. And I did that. Like I went crazy, and I was the only one that knew how it worked. And, or a couple of years ago, we're like, let's just keep it simple, right? Let's
Yeah.
just text people. And so like just texting people has gotten way better results than like trying to create all these crazy little funnels on this and that. Now, granted, like you still need to do your calling, your
Yeah.
emailing, and then SMS, but SMS has always sort of proven, hey, what's the best way we can get somebody to respond? Like, we send email campaigns, and it sucks because the open rate is not what it once was. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, what can we do differently? Well, guess what? It really comes down to like building an SMS list. It's just a channel. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, it's everything you were saying there. I was thinking of it as that channel that hasn't quite matured yet. You've got these huge platforms that have built from Mailchimp. That was an innovative way for a brand to communicate or a small business to communicate. And
yeah,
now that there's this new channel where, yes, from the cold calling to then, I mean, we still talk to businesses what they consider marketing by having a Mailchimp newsletter list. I mean, that's
yeah,
not really a marketing. I mean, yes, it is a marketing channel, but there's so much more they could be doing.
yeah,
But I also like the other side of the text message of kind of the qualifying, like the story you shared about the qualifying aspect, right? So if you, this is how do you make those connections more impactful, more personal, um, more beneficial to both parties, right? Because
yeah,
in that same story, that consultant that used a text message to kind of basically qualify before his call, right? If they didn't text him back, I bet he then cancelled the call because they're not sales qualified. So why, if they're not going as a sales indicator, as a buying
right,
signal, if they're not willing to reply to, hey, why did you book the time in my calendar? By the way, out of interest, how did you find me? What would you like to get from the call? If they can't be willing to do that, that's not a very good buying signal. So don't waste your time to um, spend
right.
30 minutes
Yeah, and you can
when
use it as like part of the process, right?
yeah,
It's
for,
just
for
part of the
sure.
process to get to a phone call. And if they don't fill it out, then cool. I mean, you can just put them into an autoresponder to get them to respond to
For
that.
sure.
But
Yeah.
you're going to get a better response there than you will trying to do that over email.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like I always ask people, I'm like, how many SMS courses are out there? There's not a lot. In
Yeah.
fact, there's probably close to maybe none. And the
Yeah.
reason is because everybody is already a pro, right? Like everybody knows how to send a text message. And so now, granted, there's ways in which you can sort of set it up with automations and this and that, but um, there is more content and courses created on email than there will be on SMS. Why? Because
Mm.
it's sort of simple. Like there's not a lot to figure out. If you know how to type words and just like not send an email over SMS, you're going to win. And so it's like the simple is better, right? It's not about being complicated. An email, you got to get the, you got to get your subject line, you got to get your pre-header, thing, and then you got to get maybe a graphic, and then your headline, and there's so many different steps to get someone to get to the end, which is click to go to your website. And so with SMS, it's immediate. And so, I just encourage people to start now. I think a lot of folks, they make the mistake of I'll get to that one day. But again, it's the missing piece. You've got, email, calling, and SMS. And if you're not doing SMS, you got to fill that.
Yeah.
And so, there's a great quote, maybe you've heard it, which is when was the best time to plant a tree? And it was 20 years ago. And the second best time is now. And so it's just start, because, I had an agency come to me oh, we got this company, they got 50,000 contacts on their contact list. And I'm like, great. You can't text them. Why? Because there is a legal side of it. And so you can't just export a list, send out a mass text message, and, expect good results. And so, just the best way to do it is coming from this call, if there's one thing to do, is you can send this text, and it's, hey, first name, are you still interested in getting Pipedrive set up?
Yeah.
Right. And if you just did it on your phone or did it on Salesmsg or another tool, I guarantee you those people that were interested in Pipedrive, they're going to reply back. Right. And so it's just a simple way to oh my gosh, wow, I've been doing all these things and trying to do YouTube and all that. It's let me just text them and see what's up. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's the adage of the medium is the message, right? So don't bring email complexities to what,
right.
And everyone knows what text messaging can do and how it can kind of pass interrupt or kind of keep attention or whatever else. So that kind of leads on to, what does the future look like, right, for the business? Obviously, there's loads of growth. So from the team expansion, features and things like this, what does the future look like there?
Yeah, I mean, our big vision is to become the leading global all-in-one multi-channel messaging platform for sales marketing support teams. So that's our big vision. And so you get there. It just takes time. It's how do you climb a mountain? Well, you go through camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, camp 4. And so we'll get there. And so, the future of Salesmsg is creating an all-in-one tool that businesses can use to send and receive messages, whether it's for their sales team, they can equip their sales team, right, for those conversational messages, whether it's marketing, right, for SMS marketing or integrating WhatsApp and other channels, and then their support team can use it to support as well. People want one tool, and that's what we hope to bring. So we've got a lot of great features coming up. I hate talking about that stuff, but we push out stuff every 2 weeks, and we've got a lot in store. So, workflows is one of them, which is the ability to sort of create your automations. So, somebody filled out a form or somebody texted in or this sort of trigger happened, you can create conditions around messaging. So that's really cool. And just making it easier, not more complicated. But
I love it. So obviously Salesmsg does integrate with Pipedrive. How do they integrate? Is it native? Is it no code? How do the two systems integrate there?
Great question. So it is no code. So basically you just click the button, you integrate, and then voila. And so what happens is from Salesmsg, right, you can search for a contact that exists in your Pipedrive database, and you can text them, right? So you don't have to import your contacts. You don't have to export it from Pipedrive and import it. So you can just start typing. It'll show up your contact, and there it is. You can text them. And so any of the texts, phone calls that are sent to receive, placed or received, gets all stored on the contact record on Pipedrive activity. So you can, from a team, you can see what texts were sent, what was received, what calls were made, what voicemails. You can record calls on Salesmsg. We've got an awesome Zapier integration, so you can sort of pipe that in too. From the widget or from a contact record or a deal, You can send someone a text message. We got a Chrome extension, so you can do click to SMS, you can do click to call, and have it all sort of pipe into Pipedrive.
Nice.
So
And would
yeah,
there be a mobile application? Like, have you got a mobile app as well as?
yep. So Chrome extension, mobile app, and so if you're out and about and you want to search for a contact in Pipedrive and send that person a text, cool. You can search for it, click on it, send them a text, and all that gets stored on the activity feed. So again, you don't have to import contacts. It's just automatically linked, and all that information gets sort of pushed to your CRM. So
Nice.
yeah, and there's more stuff. Like Pipedrive's always rolling out new features. They've got like the ability for us to be in the actual Pipedrive app,
In the module,
which is a big thing. So
Yeah.
we're excited about that, and I think that's in beta. So
Yeah,
should be
no,
cool.
that'd be cool. I mean, yeah, to your point, Pipedrive are doing a hell of a lot with their platform,
Yeah,
and working with partners like yourself as well to bring the most to the users in app, because that they know that
yeah,
that's how it gets more sticky, right? So yes, more integrations mean people stay with Pipedrive longer, but more integrations that work in one place means um, it improves their lifetime value there.
yeah.
What's the best way to kind of find out more about the integration?
Yeah, just go to salesmsg.com and you can check out the Pipedrive integration. I think we've got a good video there that will show
Yeah,
how it all works, but
yeah, cool.
you can search in the Pipedrive marketplace. You can find us there and give it a go. So it's 14-day trial. Try it out, test it out, and I think it'll work well for you. So
Sweet. Well, again, I'll make sure I remember to put those in the description for everyone below.
sure.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that. That was, yeah, really, really fascinating chat, certainly about the kind of history and some of the stories you shared there.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
can you tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of the journey so far and how you ended up? Obviously, I didn't know about the being next to the guys at the pitching at the same guys next to Ring and things like this. But how did you end up co-founding Salesmsg? And then kind of on top of that, because obviously you've done this multiple times, that you set up multiple businesses. What's your experience of running a business kind of fully remote now, or I don't know, what's happened, and how's that
Yeah,
changed in the last 2 years or so?
yeah. I mean, sales message came from like frustration, and
Mm-hmm.
so in 2015, I wrote really just out of frustration a 3-part blog series, and the title of it was called "The Death of Call Loop." Call Loop was running, it was doing well, but it wasn't like growing. It was just sort of a zombie sort of startup, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I felt the need that I had to make a change. And so I wrote this 3-part series, and I sent the email out, which the subject line was "The Death of Call Loop." I sent it out to our
So
list
this
about
three part, just to paint a picture in my head, this 3-part was. Did we have to wait for part 2, part 3, or was it all at
yeah,
once?
it dripped out over about a week.
Okay.
And so, which, people were going crazy. So, but it was something I felt I had to do, like, not even,
Yeah.
like for me, for my own sanity. And so I sent it out to about 34,000 people. And it just like, the first post was really about, how I built a business that I secretly despised. And so, I got into it thinking like, oh, this is going to be great. But the reality is we didn't have great tech. We didn't have a great development team. And so like things were breaking. And I wouldn't say that no one cared, but it was like, I cared a lot more than everybody else.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it was like, it was on my back to like fix all the problems. And so, and it just became like, oh my gosh, like everything is on me. And
Yeah.
so I wrote this, and just really, it really told the story of like of Call Loop, and people were wanting new features, they were wanting things fixed, and it was like my hands were like shackled because it was like we couldn't do it. So the end of it, the third post, which again took like 7 days, like going through the whole thing. And people were leaving comments like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did this. Like, F off," all these sort of like
Yeah, yeah.
comments. And, it was pretty gnarly. It was
How
pretty,
big was how
pretty
big
nasty.
was the business at the time?
I think we were doing about 50 grand a month, right? But it was
And in
sort of
terms of
up and down.
employees?
I think we were at maybe 7 or 8 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was like very flat for such a really long time. And it was
Yeah.
just constantly breaking. So like, sure, it was making money, but it was just like constantly like breaking and like people texting me and calling, and like it was overwhelming. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I couldn't fix it. So I just felt helpless to like solve it. And um, so the third sort of post was, I wanted to reinvent it. And so it was basically, hey, follow my journey as I reinvent Call Loop from the ground up. And you'll get an insider view into us sort of rebuilding it, because I wanted to build a better company. I wanted to build a better product, all these things that I wanted to do. And it was just my line in the sand of like, enough is enough. I can't keep doing this. And so after that, super pumped. And after about a month and a half working on sort of Call Loop 2.0, I asked my developer, Andrew, I said, "Hey man, how long is it going to take? How long do you think?" He's like, "Oh, about a year and a half." I'm like, "No."
No.
So I sort of figured that, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I getting into?" So anyhow, so we pivoted. I was like, "All right, well, let's do this other product idea I had." It was called Kick a Conference, which was a conference call platform. After about a year and no traction and about $1,500 in revenue, I'm like, we can't do this. So we pulled that. It was a great product, but like nobody wanted it. And I knew, like, don't create something people don't want. I knew that, but I made that mistake because I was like, I wanted to build the product, and but nobody wanted it. And so about 6 months into that, I was like, maybe with Sales Message I can, and not even Sales Message wasn't an idea, but I'm like, people want like conversational SMS. And so I was like, oh, and I really mocked up something. I actually
Where
posted
did
on.
that intuition come from? Is it because you were used to conversing? Was it a business or like a
Well, Call
consultant or
Loop,
or a
yeah,
mentor that?
Call Loop
Okay.
does SMS marketing. It does
Yeah.
outbound calling. And so, there were customers that were just saying like, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I just, over time, you got to realize like, wow, like people want that. And we
You
couldn't
knew.
really do
Yes.
it. Yeah. And we couldn't do that with Call Loop just because it wasn't built for that.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, and it really just started with a new question, was like, what would I do to put myself out of business?
Hmm.
And I was like, let me break out a piece of paper, and I would do this, 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 this. Like, it's a very clear question. What would I do to put myself out of business? And so I just wrote a little plan. I'm like, I would do like a conversational SMS. It's a different market. I go over here. I did, make it more SaaS subscription. So I just built like basically things that would be better.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's where it came from. And I said, hey, we made the mistake of like spending a year on a product nobody wanted. It didn't make any money. Let's not make that mistake again. And so I said, before we write a line of code, don't touch anything. Let me do a webinar. And so I put together a webinar, and 2 days later hosted it and had about $4,500 in sales, give or take, of me pre-selling Sales Message.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the slides. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going to do. Here's this. And I made an offer. We made about that, between four and $5,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, let's do it. Let's go. And so we made more money just doing a webinar, selling a product we didn't have, a product that we had that nobody wanted. And so that was just a reiteration of a concept of like, don't build something people don't want. So that was it. And so Call Loop or Sales Message started from that, and we started building it. And, it's just been growing ever since. And there's a lot to the story, but I ended up not working out with my original co-founder. And so in COVID, I went from like a development team down to zero. And I was like, what are we going to do? And
Yeah.
so since then, I found an amazing co-founder, and now we're, team of 15 developers, team of 27 people. So, it's
Yeah.
been a journey to get here, but there's so many good stories
Yeah.
of the trenches of building a software company. So,
Yeah. No, for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and obviously having that relationship with the developer or dev team is so important. But what did you take? What have you learnt on the way out of the COVID situation now? Like, have you gone back to an office? Are you kind of fully dispersed or distributed? I think is Matt Mullenweg's way
yeah.
of
Yeah, we're all
describing.
remote.
Yeah,
So, I'm in South Florida. My co-founder's in California. We have team members in Canada. A good portion of our team is in Ukraine.
yeah,
So a lot of them were in Kiev, Chernigov. They all fled. We have team
yeah,
members in Belarus, and they're sort of fleeing. So we've got a big chunk of our team in those countries now, in Czech Republic, Hungary, somewhere in Portugal. So all
yeah.
spread out. But we've been a remote team from the start. I have an office. I had people in our office, and yeah, so we're a fully remote team, and
Nice.
yeah, yeah,
No, I love it. And thank you for sharing for that. I had so many questions I wanted to keep, but we might be on here for 3 hours otherwise. Um,
yeah,
so in terms of kind of in the kind of last couple of questions here, in terms of quick fire highlights on the integration that you or best use cases that you've seen with between Pipedrive and Sales Message.
yeah. The lead engagement, right? Um, you know, Again, people are coming in through a web form or through a lead bot or something like that, then engaging over SMS. So lead
Yeah,
engagement's a big one. Lead qualification. Um, Engaging with those deals that may have gone cold, right, and really just continuing that conversation. Pipedrive at its core is really a sales CRM, and so how are sales reps using that, right? It's all around that engagement, sort of pushing to a meeting or following up with, right, everything sort of on that front end, calling people, right, using it for a calling platform. So yeah, there's still a lot more work to do, but that's sort of the main use case from a Pipedrive customer. Now, there's other customers that again, on the marketing team, there's different use cases for that. So
for sure.
again, mass text messaging, driving sales and promotions and stuff like that. So
So what would you say there to someone getting started? So just getting started using SMS, so it could be sales or marketing. You tackle it however you want, but for someone just getting started using kind of SMS in their kind of as a channel.
yeah, it is. When you're getting started, I think it's easy to take the approach of like, hey, we're going to start mass texting people. And that's really not the best approach. And so, what I would encourage people to do is like, if there's, again, one thing to do is send the text. Like, we all have cold prospects, we all have cold leads. And it's just send them a text. Hey, Chris, it's Mike over at XYZ. We spoke a couple months back. Are you still interested in setting up Pipedrive?
Yeah,
Right. And like send it out to 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. And what's going to come from that is people will be like, hey, no, I'm not interested. Or like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about doing this. Right. And so it's just an easy way to see the immediate results with it. And so do it. Like just
yeah,
do it like now.
yeah,
We do it once a month just to cold, deals or people that were at one point, wanting sales message and for whatever reason they never converted. And so people are busy, they forget, they start a project, and that's a great way to do it.
yeah,
And then on web forms, right? So if somebody fills out a web form, excuse me, engage with them immediately over SMS. Right? If you have demos, you probably don't have people that are showing up. And so it's like a simple way to drive attendance is set up a Zapier integration and automate that SMS, an hour before. We have a
yeah,
training on how to do that, and you'll see a nice bump. So
yeah. Nice. And then the other side of that, people that are they might be using it or have been using it for a while. Are there any kind of pro tips for someone to really excel either in sales or marketing? What would you say there?
Simple is better.
Yeah,
Simple
don't
is better.
overcomplicate things, guys. it's
Yeah, I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be rocket science, right? Like you're already a pro, and just text them, text them, just text them. That's what we
yeah,
like to say. It's just text them.
yeah,
So, um, again, I think there's a reason why like there's not a lot of SMS courses out there, is because it really can be that simple and impactful. And you know, we've just seen a lot of success by people leaning into engaging, because it really has become that one channel where they can always rely on. Like when you need to get something done, like, and you need a response and you need to engage with somebody, it's always going to be SMS,
yeah,
right? It's not going to be direct mail or phone call or something like that. So like SMS is the channel. We have companies that their entire business, like if sales message were to go away, they'd be done, right?
yeah.
They would scramble and have to figure it out, because it's so dependent. Many companies are so dependent on SMS. And so, yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
And I always ask this because I know the guys at Pipedrive listen. Any Pipedrive feature requests?
Well, they're building it, which is the interface into Pipedrive.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, customers want to live inside of the CRM. And so the more clicks and more tabs, the more complicated it is for the end person. So, being that it can exist inside of the UI, like
yeah,
HubSpot does it, and that's what makes it so successful.
yeah,
And so the more integrated into the UI that they can make it, the more successful we will be, and the more successful that they will be. So,
yeah. No,
yeah.
very well said. So again, thank you for that. Is there anything in particular you'd like to cover off before we sign off?
No, I think we're good, man. Yeah,
Cool.
no, this is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's been great fun. I mean, and what's the best way to keep up to date with Sales Message?
Yeah, just go to salesmsg.com, and you can, give it a go, sign up for a 14-day trial, integrate into Pipedrive or another CRM that you're all are using. But yeah, that's it. We also have a really good YouTube channel, and so we're always putting out great features and
Yeah,
just sort of ways to use Sales Message. So if you want to learn some of the strategies, check out the YouTube channel. So
yeah, I did watch some of those before we started talking. We'll be sure to have any trial links to the 14-day trial link in the description below. So do check that out. And again, thank you, Chris. That's it for this week. If you'd like to get a demo, you can reach out to the guys over there. You can find Sales Message on the Pipedrive Marketplace. And thank you so much for listening to the Evolve Pipedrive podcast, where we talk all things Pipedrive, sales, apps, and Pipedrive Marketplace. If you found this useful, please consider liking, sharing, and giving to anyone that you think will find this of value in your network. Appreciate it. Cheers.